All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here today. My name is Millie Symns, and I will be talking about a challenge that I created for myself last year, which was to create a website and a blog once a month for an entire year. So I'll be going over what I learned about myself and a lot of things just like in the process. But before I get there, I want to bring you back to a point earlier in this year where a group of my friends, we all went to Puerto Rico for a bachelorette party, and one of the activities was to go on a hike. And it was not like any hike that I've been on before, where there were clear trails to walk on. We were climbing over rocks, crossing streams and rivers, and it was a lot. But nevertheless, we persisted with our guide, who brought us to this beautiful waterfall. I mean, like the most gorgeous thing I've ever seen. And at some point he says, oh, well, you could get closer to that waterfall. You just gotta kind of climb a cliff, and there'll be like a pool area, you could swim and like be under the waterfall. So at first I was just like, nah, I'm not gonna do that. That's a lot. That's scary, I don't wanna do that. But watching my friends start climbing, I was like, okay, I guess I could do that too. And to my own surprise, I actually did climb, and I got up there. I got up to this like beautiful pool area, and it was a good example of that I could do hard things too if I just go ahead and do it. So I guess you're like wondering, okay, like waterfall blogs, like what is this connection? And these two things were like my own stretch points. There were times in which I decided to go ahead and do something even though I didn't really think it was possible. So like before blogging, I was in the education space. I worked at the City University of New York, and at IBM, I was doing education research and program evaluation. And now I'm currently a senior data analyst at Thinks. I move into like the analytics engineering space for the most part. And towards the end of my time in education, I became a very big fan of the open source community. And now I feel like I could say I'm our community contributor. Like I have a blog now, and I am presenting to you all at the conference. Like, this is crazy. But I didn't really know about this whole community until I got to attend the conference in 2020. I was introduced to R at the City University of New York because we spent some time transitioning our projects from Stata to R. So I learned just enough to do my job well, but I didn't know that there were so many other things that you could do until I was able to come to this conference. And just like how I feel like I would say that you all are experiencing this week of like really beautiful talks that are informative and inspiring about how we are all using the same tools in very different ways. I had that experience too in 2020. I got introduced to the cross between data and art in education. I got to learn more about how to not repeat yourself in reports and be more efficient. Also learning all the millions of ways that you can use R Markdown that I had no idea you could do before. So at this point in my journey, I would say I was heavily into the observer role. I was happily taking in all of this information and really excited about it. At the same time, I really wanted to be a contributor. I wanted to be like the cool big kids that were like doing all the cool stuff. Like I wanted to be a part of it, and I felt really inspired. But there were so many options. I didn't know where to start, what to do, how to go about it. So similar to my panic at this waterfall at the cliff, I kind of took a step back and was just like, nah, I'm not gonna do that. But an idea never really dies, at least in my opinion. So after the conference, we go through a global pandemic, and I changed jobs, I changed sectors. I started doing lots of like webinars and doing some of my own professional development online and attending meetups, a lot of virtual meetups online. And the idea and the thought of building this website just kind of kept popping up. And so at some point I was like, all right, I guess I'll just do it. Because the hardest part of anything, I think, is really just to start. So with all things are really big, I like to couch them in structure as much as I can. So I created this challenge for myself where I was going to, just create and publish a website. I was gonna write a blog post once a month for an entire year. And I chose this format because it was long enough for me to be able to jump in and have time to learn and try new things, but also short enough so that it's not like overwhelming. And it was just 12 blog posts, like that felt achievable. And then lastly, I wanted to make sure that I share that blog publicly on LinkedIn and Twitter, because I also wanted this to be an opportunity for me to talk about myself more and put myself out there, because this is also like my first time kind of just like putting myself out there on the internet, because I didn't really have to before, but now that I've like switched sectors, it's kind of hard to like talk about what it is that my expertise is without having a platform. So that's the way I went about this challenge. So thinking about the side effects of all of this, I think there were a lot of things that I learned and experienced, but the ones that I'm gonna focus on today is related more so to like professional development. So the 3 things that I learned was how to build my brand, figure out my niche in this big data space, and how to build and maintain this website. So when it came to my brand, or just like putting the website together at all, I was like, okay, well, how am I going to introduce myself here? Like, what is Millie? So I had like a guiding question for myself, like, what do I want to be known for? And I broke that down to like, what is it that I do? Who am I? And who would I like to become, like as a professional? And these were the questions that I was like asking myself, and the answers that I would use in order to like build that like home, like land page and bio. So I knew that I wanted to showcase my expertise in education and higher education especially. But I also wanted to show that I'm a multifaceted human. I like a lot of things. And I also wanted to showcase that I do care about societal issues. I want all of these things to kind of be incorporated all in one. So when it came to my homepage, I basically took 3 sentences for those 3 questions and just like wrote an answer to each one. And that became kind of like my elevator pitch for my site. And then into like the About Me section, same concept, but now I just have that broken out bigger in little paragraphs. So you get to know who I am and what I care about, details on what I do professionally, and a little bit about me personally. Like I like watching turtles sunbathe. It's like one of my favorite things. So after figuring out, okay, this is how I'm going to showcase myself on this site, now how am I showing up once a month for a year? I didn't know really what it is that I wanted to like write about. So I decided to have this like guiding question to think through, well, how do I want people to experience me? So I spent lots of time looking at different websites from all over across the community. So there were students that were showcasing what they were learning in classes and a little bit of like small projects on their site, to professors showing their whole curriculum portfolio online, or even folks in the community giving like really detailed guided tutorials on how to do anything that you can think of or any problem that you're having. And with looking at all of that inspiration, I also wanted to think about what my strengths are and what I could like showcase, but also what I wanted to learn, because this whole thing was a learning experience for me. So with that, I got these like kind of like keywords of like how it is that I want to show up. And so I knew that I want information to be in small bites. I want it to be like short and sweet, like people can like read it within 5 minutes or so. It was really important for me to have it be friendly and approachable. And I also wanted to showcase like my big picture thinking. And so that's where I landed on this title for my blog called Deviations Outside of the Norm. Because, you know, who doesn't like a cute play on words with stats? And I wanted to showcase it that way, to say like, this will be a data blog of some sort, but it might not be like the ones that you've come across, because I'm going to couch it in a lot of different things. And I also feel like I'm a little bit of a deviation outside of the norm, but you know, neither here nor there. So my opening blogs, I started off with something I like felt really confident about and I could talk about for hours. and it is logic models, which I think is very important for anyone who's working in any sort of programming to have a logic model so that you know what it is that your outcomes are and how you're going to go about it. But okay, that's aside. So I did that, and then for my second post, I did do like a little tutorial, but I couched it in like a bigger story and a bigger lesson. So it was more than just, how to make a Gantt chart. And as time progressed, I like really like gave some time into showing up with my art, because I also thought this would be like a cool opportunity for me to just dig a little bit more, because in that 2020 conference, I got introduced to Allison Horse, who I love her art so much, and she was doing all the things that I like envisioned or like wanted to do for myself. So this was like my way to like challenge myself to also bring in art into my cute little data space. Thank you. So lastly, with building and maintaining a website, so definitely big thanks to Allison Hill. She spent some time with me as we crossed paths in IBM for a second to just like sit down and help me walk through connecting my project through GitHub and connecting it to Netlify, and then I had the fun part of figuring out everything else. And that meant a lot of like not understanding how to do things, lots of breaking things, deep appreciation, and also pain with Git. This was also my first opportunity to like really dig into Git as well, because in my previous jobs I haven't had to use it. So yeah, I mean, I'm still struggling, but it at least is helpful while you like have a project that you care about to couch it in that. So I got introduced to other packages as well as I was like trying to learn things and also write blog posts. So this like bigger project became smaller projects within smaller projects, and just kind of built up on all these things that I got to learn that I feel like will be transferable wherever it is that I go. So when it comes to resources for making websites, blogs, for a site like mine that uses Hugo, Allison Hill has really great posts on this. She like details exactly what it is that you need to do. But if you are looking to do something a little bit more simpler, there is Distill, and Andreas Handel and Thomas Mock has some sites that have a guided tutorial. But better yet, of course, try Cordo. And I highly recommend Isabella Velasquez's site, because she has like a whole site that is about helping you get to the point of like having Cordo be the base for your own website and blog. So thinking about this journey of going from observer to contributor, I chose a website for my own like specific reasons, for my own professional development and wanting to pivot out of the education space. But I think there are so many ways that anyone can contribute, and these are just a small few out of the many ways in which you could do it. But generative art, doing lunch and learns at work, package development, or doing virtual or in-person meetups are all the ways and more to really move from that transition of being an observer and like start going into the contributor realm. So I leave you with this question of like, what is your waterfall? What is that stretch point that you have for yourself? What have you been thinking about doing for a while for yourself and the community? And really dig into that thought, because one of the things I think that I have learned in this whole experience of like building this website is that at any point in my our journey, I could have inputted my voice in there, and it would have been of value, and someone else would have also wanted to hear it. So take this as your sign to get creative and do that thing that you've been thinking about for a long time, because there is someone else that needs to hear your voice too. Yeah, thanks.
All right, thank you, Millie. So a couple of questions from the audience. Number one, what was the turning point for you that made you just start the process to finally create your website? Any significant motivation or single event that fueled it?
It was Well, I think Allison Hill also telling me that it'd be helpful because she was talking about how she was in the process of trying to like hire some data scientists, and she said like it just makes a difference for someone to just have like an online platform for them people to browse through. And after hearing it so many times, and then when your idol, really comes up and just like, yeah, you should do it. And it's like, well, I guess I'll have to do it then. Like, geez. So that was the moment for me.
Well, thank you, Allison Hill. Question number 2, how do you maintain a blog and personal morale even if nobody seems to read your posts? This is one of my biggest anxieties.
Oh, so for me, I basically pretended like I was in my own part of the internet where no one read it. And I was okay with that because like I'm learning something and I'm putting posts out there. So I just really couched it in like, this is something that I'm doing for me. And then it was a happy bonus when folks would be like, oh my gosh, I really love this post. Or like a friend of mine told me that he was literally sending post to his supervisee for like reference. Like, oh yeah, Millie has a thing, like you should go ahead and do that. And I'm just like, why are you doing this? I was like, oh, you really like this. Or like people would be like looking forward to the next post. It's like, so people are out here on the internet looking at the site. That's crazy. But yeah, no, I did it for me. Like, and I think that helped with my anxiety because otherwise, if I put my value into how many views there are and I don't like check what how many people get into the site or anything like that, then it would feel a little bit different for me and I have a different kind of anxiety. But when you do it for yourself, I feel like it should be okay, yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Let's thank Millie again.